Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the Nightforce NX8 2.5 to 20 by 50. Let's go ahead and roll the intro. Hey guys, thanks for checking out another Hatchet Cast episode. And today we're going to talk about the Nightforce NX8 2.5 to 20 by 50 mil-XT reticle. Before we get started, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button. Also, make sure you share this video with a friend who's maybe looking to get something out of an optic like this or is shopping around. It's a great way to organically help out the channel. And if you're looking to help the channel out further, if you're looking for a part or you've seen a gun build that I've used in a previous video, go to the website, BARRELHATCHET.com. We have a guns and gear page where we have the build of specific rifles and all the parts in them listed out. So that way you can just find that rifle build, you can scroll down, find the part you're looking for, click it, and it'll redirect you to the company that supports the channel. And so it's a great way for those companies to see that Barrel and Hatchet is being utilized to help, bring folks to them. So it's a great way to support us and also helps you out with your next build. I have my friend Dion who's going to help talk about the NX8 with me. He has a lot of experience with this optic and has been running it for quite a long time. And he'll talk about a lot of the pros and the cons and things that he's had experience with when he's been running it on his SPR. If you have any experience with an NX8, a Nightforce optic, whether it's a 1:8 or a 2.5 to 20 NX8, go ahead and share your experiences below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And there's a ton of people who also get a lot of information from the comments section. There's some trolls in there, but there's a lot of people in there who also are just trying to help answer questions. So make sure you jump in the comment section below and talk about your experiences as well. Hey guys, so I have my buddy Dion here. He's the general manager here at Element Training Complex here in Holt, Florida, and he's been running an NX8 2.5 to 20 for a long time. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to jump into the specs and then we're going to be kind of tackling this optic together. So for the specs, the one important spec that everybody cares about is how much does this flipping thing cost?
Yep, most important.
So MSRP on this, you can get it at Optics Planet for about $1,950 to $2,200. Nightforce has been known for, a higher priced product, but they do have high quality. So you can get it sometimes on sales. They have Black Friday sales we just had, but $1,950 to $2,200 is about the ballpark range that you're going to be paying for this type of optic. Some of the colors they got black. You have dark earth that is spray painted on there, but his is black. But you can also get it in dark earth. It's like a bronze kind of color.
Color.
Comes with a bunch of different reticles.
So I'm running the mil-XT reticle.
Yeah.
Like I said, they make quite a few. The Moore, the mil-C, the Horse, Trimmer 3, the MOA XT. So whatever your application is going to be, whatever you prefer, they make a reticle for that. I prefer the mil-XT, as we'll get into it, the different characteristics that it has, the really small center dot that it has on there. So that's what I'm running. That's what I'm stuck with.
So when you were looking at this optic, what was when you were looking at all the different reticles, I'm sure you've run the Trimmer 3 before, what was some of your decision-making process as far as like, hey, this is the kind of optic or reticle I want to run?
So before I actually had the Nightforce on here, I had a EOTech Voodoo 1 to 10. And the biggest complaint I had about it was the center dot on it for that reticle, the SR5 reticle, was really big.
Yeah.
So when I was trying to do some more like precise shooting, the dot just covered up my aim point. So once I decided to switch to something with a little bit more magnification, and something with a finer reticle, I came across the NX8, and then through my research, the mil-XT was kind of recommended by a couple of my buddies, and then like I said, doing the research, there's a lot of characteristics within this reticle that I really, really prefer. So the big thing was the center dot. Like I think it's like a 0.05 center dot was what like I really, really prefer, because I'm dialing a lot. I do a lot of holdovers as well, but being able to dial and use that 0.05 center dot to really have a small aim, point aim small, miss small type deal was the big one for me. The Nightforce name, I knew the reliability was going to be there.
Yeah.
Price point was kind of steep, but you get what you pay for.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the reticle goes, you know, there's a lot of reticle options that you have. So depending on what your flavor is, if you like using MOA, mill, if you've been running that, if you're used to a trimmer, you know, a lot of guys from military backgrounds or even law enforcement, or maybe you're a hunter or competition shooter, the Horus Trimmer 3, I mean, it's a trademarked reticle. Like it's a very famous reticle. It's in all the big manufacturers. So you can still run that. I think Sniper School even teaches off a Horus reticle. So, but Mil XT is a Nightforce reticle. So if you like it, which I do, and we'll get more into that, but that's an available option as well. So the other big one is weight. Everybody's really concerned about weight. And this thing weighs about 28 ounces. And so it's not a super heavy optic. And I think that goes back to that it's just a 30 mil tube versus a 34 mil tube. So we're seeing a lot of optics these days. Because they're trying to get more light in, they want to have a clearer picture, a bigger eye box, they're going with a fatter tube. So you're seeing 34s, 35 mil tubes. Understand that comes with weight. Like you got to carry more weight if you're running a bigger tube. So what Nightforce did is they ran a 30 mil tube, but a bigger objective. So it's a 50 mil objective. It's a lot of light coming in there. So one of the things, you know, obviously it's a 2.5 to 20. Do you think that's too much range, especially if you're running a 5.56? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Not at all. So being that like we're shooting these guns at 100 yards and then sometimes out to 600, 700, 800 yards, I think the magnification range is perfect. I'm not shooting at necessarily big targets all the time. We're shooting at one MOA target, so being able to see what I'm shooting at is huge. I will say that like I never really run it on max power. I'm probably sitting around 16 power when I'm shooting out to like 800. Most of the time I'm probably running it on 10 to 12, right in the middle. But I like being able to dial down, see a target at 100 yards without being, you know, too magnified and engage that target, and then being able to dial in and engage a target, or zoom in and dial and engage a target out at distance. So I like the magnification range. When I had the 1 to 10, like I was running it on 10 power all the time, but I still didn't feel like it was enough. So being able to bump up that extra 10 if I need to has been huge. And then not even only for shooting, when I'm out shooting with my buddies and I can get behind this in spot form out at distance. So I honestly think it's perfect. That 2.5 to 20 I think is pretty perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I was, well, to your point, I was also running, before I had it on this rifle, I was running the Trijicon Credo 2 to 10. I'd done a video on it, and I love that. I honestly love the optic because it looks like the old school 2 to 10 from the Mark 12 days, but that 10 range, it was great. The reticle's amazing on that. I absolutely love that optic. It just, like you said, I didn't feel like I had enough range. Like I was like, man, I wish I just had a little bit more. And so, you know, I was even running a 2.5 to 15 Steiner on this before, and that 15 range was so nice because I was able to kind of get a little bit more. But having the 20, originally when I first got this, I was like, man, I think it's too much for 5.56. But with SPRs and technology of 5.56 these days, I mean, you got 85 grain bullets, 80.5 grain, you got hybrid cartridges, like you're really able to stretch that round out pretty far. So the further you go out, the more you want to be able to get that feedback at the target. Having that 20 power has been huge, and especially here at Element, I mean, you guys have past 1,000 that you can engage out to. So, yeah, I would agree. Like the 2.5 to 20 range is perfect, and I was honestly shocked that they put it into a 30 mil package, like a 30 mil tube.
And the thing too is like, what you notice with a lot of scopes, if you're on the highest power or the lowest power, that tends to be where you get the worst glass clarity.
Right, right.
So when you compare this to something like a Mark 5 or whatever, a 3.5 to 18, well, if I run this on 3.5, I'm not at my lowest power, so I'm not having to worry about my glass clarity being really, really bad. And then if I run it on 18 power, well, I'm not at the max magnification either, so I still have pretty clear glass, which this thing has remarkable glass. I really, really enjoy it. And so even if I don't use the lower end or the all the way max end, while I'm using those in-betweens, I'm not maxing out my optic like you would be with some other systems.
Right.
Trying to get to the same type of magnification that we're doing on here.
Yeah.
So there's that too.
I mean, I think also, you know, the one thing you said, you had a 3.5. A lot of optics are going from 4 to 16 or 3 to 18. This is a 2.5. So you got a really low bottom range where it's almost, you know, essentially a 2 to 10 type optic. Like you can run from 2.5 to 20. That's a huge range that you have a lot of options to work at. And even when you're dialing this thing, that, you know, you get a throw lever that comes with it, but it's a super smooth transition from 2.5 to 20 whenever you're working the dial. It's a really nice range set, especially for 5.56 SPRs, because I feel like I have the option to be able to shoot stuff that's closer at 100, maybe inside of 100, and also stretch out to further distance targets. But real quick, before we go a little bit further into experiences, what are some other features that we get out of the box when you get this optic?
Out of the box, so like you said, you get that little throw lever in the box already. You get scope caps out of the box. You get a sunshade too. There's a little tool that you're going to use to adjust your zero stop that comes in the box, so that's neat. And we'll dig into that zero stop here shortly, but so it comes with quite a bit.
Yeah.
It comes with quite a bit. Everything's short of a mount, but they do make package options to where you can get it with the Nightforce mount like you're running.
Yeah, yeah. I will say Nightforce mount and the optic, it stings. It's pricey. You definitely got to save up your money for it, but it is worth it, and it's super robust, which I've been saying robust quite a bit in a lot of videos. So if I say it a bunch of times, for whatever reason, it's a fun word to say. So
buy once, cry once.
Yeah, exactly.
They also come illuminated, so you can do red or green if you're shooting in low light situations, whatever you prefer. Another thing I like about it is with the MIL-XT, the adjustments are 0.1, so you have pretty fine adjustments to dial your shots in, or be super accurate, so to speak. And then I don't feel like the reticle is really busy either. With some other reticles, they seem really busy, and as you get into trying to do your holds and you're like reading into your reticle, you can kind of get lost. I didn't have that problem when I started using this reticle. The numbers and everything are really clear, really crisp, and you don't have a problem dropping down in and doing your holdovers and holding for wind.
To kind of add on to that point, the reason why, for me, I thought that even though there's a lot of dots on there, the reason why I think it doesn't seem as busy is because of really good labeling. So like the reason I love the Credo 2 to 10 from Trijicon is because it has really good labeling. It's got enough references, but it's labeled properly. I've also had LPVOs where it's super busy, and I'm like, oh, that's great, tons of wind holds, and it's like, you don't have enough labels. Like, I have to count dots. So if you look at the MIL-XT, there is a numbered label for every mill line, and it's every odd number is a smaller number. So you've got the 1 is really small, your evens are big, but every single line has a label. So you can kind of just count it down. You don't have to, or you can just look, see the number, and then do your wind hold. Whereas with other optics, sometimes with reticles that are really busy, they can be even less busy, but if they don't have proper labeling, it can seem really busy because you have no reference. And so that was a big thing for me about this reticle, is the references are super easy. My wind holds also, on the Christmas tree, I've got big dots, I've got little dots. I have things to differentiate where my hold needs to be. And shooting out here, especially if you run a couple gas gun matches out here, how important is it when you're trying to make a follow-up shot to find a quick reference?
Oh, it's very important. You already have that pressure of being on the clock. You have your buddies and strangers behind you watching you perform, and being able to find your target or place your target in your reticle quickly, get the job done, and so you can move on to the next target, or make that correction. It's huge. It will make or break some people, and I've had a lot of people that they were struggling, and I was like, what's going on? And they were just like, I was just getting lost in my reticle. And some of it is training, but some of it also is ease of use. If you have something that's going to be really busy and hard to learn, you're going to have to put more time in behind it, and then when that stress factor comes in, the chances of you using it correctly or efficiently is going to be less. So having a reticle, like I said, that's labeled clearly, is not too busy and is user friendly, so to speak, is huge.
Now, you know, when you're talking about good clarity and trying to, if you're shifting from one target to the next, working a parallax adjustment is one of those things where I think it's overlooked, or if you're running LPVO, it's fixed parallax, so you can't adjust it. But what's nice about this is, well, maybe it's a complaint for some folks where they're like, hey, he doesn't have the yardage numbers. Yeah. Well, for me, you know, I was talking to Adrian from Sidewinder Concepts, and he's like, dude, you should just stay in the glass. When you're transitioning targets, adjust your parallax without even coming out of the glass and adjust it till it's clear. You don't need to look and see, is it at 150 or 200? Like, just adjust it till it's perfectly crystal clear, clear target, clear reticle, and then it's super easy to run. So
smooth. Yeah,
super smooth. But with the turrets themselves, what are some things, because you dial, and if you do dial, when do you dial?
So it's all situational dependent.
Right.
I'll dial depending on target size, target opportunity. If I have plenty of time, I will dial. That way I can guarantee the most accurate. I stay out of the reticle. And so I'll dial. If I need to engage something quickly, or I'm jumping around out multiple targets, then I tend to just do a hold. I tend to just do a hold.
Do you dial for wind at all, really, or?
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm always holding for wind.
And that's, you know, it's one of those things I don't think a lot of people really dial for wind for SPR type applications, and so you see they cap the windage knob. So you'll see that with most of your optics. For me, I like the clicks of this dial. The zero stop was pretty easy. How was it easy for you in terms of?
Zero stop is super simple. 2 screws on the side, this cap pulls up, there's 4 on the inside, you loosen them up, you back that clutch system till it stops, tighten them back down to, I want to say it's 4 inch-pounds, slap this thing back on, making sure the zero's lined up, and screw your screws back down and you're done. I can literally adjust my zero stop in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Have you ever had sometimes where you mess it up, or what are some things when you're doing your, like say for example, you go in zero, what are some tricks you do to make sure that nothing shifts when you're putting your zero stop back together?
Really just taking your time. Taking your time, making sure like you're off the firing line so that while you're moving this clutch system around, you can hear for those clicks in case it does catch. But really just take your time. It's a pretty simple process. Everybody that has gotten one that's like, hey, show me how to do this, I show them once and then they kind of feel silly that I even had to show them.
Right.
And you can find out how to do it on their website too. But yeah, it's super simple. Just take your time. And I think the biggest thing to worry about is making sure that you're not over tightening these clutch screws. You can damage the optic doing that. They call for 4 inch-pounds. That's super duper light. So just making sure that you're doing that, and you'll be fine.
I didn't take my time the first time I did it, and there's like an O-ring or a spring or something in one of these screws, and so it shot out. So make sure you take your time.
Yeah, you don't have to take these screws all the way out. You just got to back them out a little bit. I would say maybe halfway or so, and pull up. You'll feel a little bit of tension even with the screws all the way out. There's an O-ring that sits around in here, but you'll feel a little bit of tension, then it pops right off.
Yeah, it's super simple. That's another thing I like when it comes to optics. I'm like, how complicated is this zero stop? Do I need some flipping Allen key that it doesn't come with? It's super tiny and I can't find it anywhere, and it's some Chinese measurement. So yeah, I mean, having an easy zero stop is really, really nice. And honestly, let's just say, for example, why is a zero stop important in your opinion?
So that you can return it to zero. So if I'm out shooting and I am dialed and then I need to quickly return back to zero, I don't overshoot that and then now I'm shooting low. Being able to be accountable for my shots is huge, so that I'm not shooting rounds over the berm at the end of the day. When I get done and I turn this back to zero, it stops. I know it stops at what I'm zeroed at. And the next time I come out here, if I'm ever confused or I'm wondering, hey, what am I dialed for? I'm dialed for zero. I'm dialed for 100 yards. I'm dialed for my zero distance. I don't have to worry about remembering, like you see on some old scopes. Like you put it on there, you have to zero it, and then you're writing down somewhere like it's at 1.3, and that's where it sticks. And then, you know, when your buddy picks up your gun and wants to shoot it, he's like, oh, I got to put it at zero, and now it's all messed up.
So I remember I had a scope that I ran on my bolt gun, and it didn't have a zero stop. It was a cheaper optic. I'm not gonna name who it was, but it was a cheaper optic, and I was just getting in distance shooting, and it didn't have a zero stop, and so I would have to count how many rotations. If I dialed, I had to count how many rotations I had, and then I would like marker it, so it would be like at this spot. So it was a pain. I could take the turret off and put it back down, but I didn't have a zero stop. So if I was doing a match, you know, like I was able to, in the middle, like say for example, one target I'm gonna shoot with a dial, the next one I'm gonna do a hold, so I can just crank it back down to zero, hit that zero stop, go back, and I actually go underneath a little bit, so it's not right at zero. I go where my zero stop is maybe set at the first mill, like underneath zero, so I have a little bit of hold under if I need to. But it's just easy. Crank it on there, no thinking involved, which is great for me because I'm really bad at thinking. And so, but yeah, it's a standard thing. The key is how easy is it, and this one's really easy. Hold on a second, let me think how I'm gonna phrase this question. See? Good. All right, I'm gonna put that into the video. That's gonna be the intro. I like this specifically for the SPR. One is because of the weight. It's a lightweight optic. It's not overly large. It's a good range, so 2.5 to 20. It seems like a really good range for SPRs. As I've been shooting SPRs longer, like I said, I started off at 2 to 10, and now I just desire more. And you get that whenever, like, when I started shooting early on, I was like, I don't like a reticle, it's too busy. And then as you slowly start getting more proficient as a rifleman, you're just like, I kind of want a little bit more reference. I want a little more information. I think I'm ready for something a little bit more in depth that can give me a lot more, you know, capability when I'm running it. The fact that it's so clear, it's so lightweight, it's not super large, allows me to put, you know, like you have on yours, you can run a thermal on the front of yours. I think it's just a really good optic for SPRs, and the 2 to 10 is something I put on like a GPR now, like a, you know, 14.5, a 16-inch. And so the ability to transition, because of the reticle, to transition from one target to the next, a very fast-paced type of shooting, is where the Nightforce NX8 2.5-20 shines and stands out to me as far as an SPR type platform.
Because of the job, I've gotten the opportunity to get behind a lot of different glass, a lot of different weapon systems, so I've kind of seen it all. And what tends to be most popular are going to be like these mid-range variable optics, or MPVOs, some people call them. I would say the two most popular that we're going to see out here are going to be the Nightforce and the Leopolds. But honestly, I see a lot of people really kind of ditching that 1 to 10 because they're able to get that job done with a red dot and a magnifier. Right. And then so when they're throwing optics on their guns to be able to shoot further and more accurately, the 2.5 to, or the 2 to 10s, the 1 to 10s are not working for them anymore. They're utilizing those to shoot 300 yards and in. Once they begin to want to step past that, everybody's asking for more magnification, because the cartridges are just getting better. Cartridges are getting, you're able to shoot bullets faster. The bullets are more accurate. And so as that progression continues, I don't need a Magnum caliber now to shoot out to 800 yards or even 1,000. And I know like that's not what this is built for, but I can tell you that we shoot out to 1,000 with these all the time. And they're more than capable. They're more than capable. And so, yeah, I kind of see like the LPVOs kind of like dying off, or they're being more utilized how people were utilizing red dots and magnifiers. So, that's the culture shift that I'm seeing.
I mean, it's one of those things where I've seen the same thing where LPVOs, I think it goes back to red dot magnifier LPVO application. People are blending those and using them for around the same range, and just be like, it's just personal preference at the end of the day, you know? And so I like how some of the LPVOs have a little bit more reticle. So if I do want to have a hold, I can use a hold. But when you start jumping into this type of optic, this is where you start dialing a lot more. You can be really precise. If you're looking for 1/10 of a mil adjustments and making that shot with really good ammo and really good barrels and things of that nature, you're gonna get that type of response. And so those are things that I'm looking for now with an SPR. And in my opinion, things have evolved so much with these. I almost have a really high standard in terms of what I expect even out of accuracy and capability with 5.56 now. So you know, running like Black Arc Munitions, who's a big fan of the channel and sponsor the channel. He has a round called the Mark 262 Alpha, and it's a 77 grain projectile, but it's in a hybrid casing, so you can have a lot higher pressure than you do with brass. So you're seeing some like really high, you know, velocities coming out of that round. It's a 77 grain match, and also you're having really low SDs. And he's also, you know, producing a new bullet called the 80 or an 80.5 grain bullet out of a 5.56. Really high velocity, low SDs. So it's maintaining supersonic for a way longer distance. So you're able to really touch stuff that's at 1,000. You know, it's almost like, don't get into your panties in a wad over this, but I would say you're reaching 6.5 Grendel 6mm arc capability, not at that level, but right underneath the threshold with this new type of cartridge that's being developed. So now we talked about some of the capabilities. What are some of the things that you don't like about this optic?
Some of the things I don't like, it's kind of long. So it does take up a little bit more rail space, but with this, what we're running, it's kind of a mute point. But in my opinion, when I first like unboxed it, I was like, yeah, it's kind of long.
Yeah. Do you think it was because of your LPVO usage?
I think 100% so, because my LPVO was like, if you chop this whole objective off, you know, and that's what it was before. So I think it was just a little bit of like a shell shock going from a smaller package LPVO to an MPVO or whatnot. It was a little bit bigger. 28 ounces, is it a little heavy? Yeah, ish. Lift more weights, I don't.
I mean, it's one of those things though, it's like you're getting a heavier optic, but yeah, the whole package of what you're putting it on is gonna be heavy anyway. So I always use a rule of thumb, you want capability? Capability comes with weight, you're just gonna have to carry the weight. Unless it doesn't make sense and you just got random stuff on there that doesn't make any sense, you know? Like, so as everything that's a capability, that's real world capability, that brings you more on the battlefield, if you want that, you gotta carry it. And so now you're running a thermal on the front of that. How has that paired with your Nightforce, and how well does it work?
It's been great. It's a Trijicon Skeet IRX. It pairs great with it. It's one of those flip to centers. I've killed deer out to 800 yards. We do a lot of depth tags. Eric got to come with us one night and see the capabilities of 5.56 on live targets at distance. It works. Shot placement is a thing, but it works. And so yeah, running the thermal on here, I haven't had really too many issues. It's really going to come down to, I believe, just the thermal in itself. But once I get into a certain magnification range, I begin to see picture past the optic that's not in thermal.
Right.
But that's just part of the limitations of the system. But it's been great. It's super clear. Once I dial my parallax all the way back, it pairs up no problem.
One of the things I don't like about this optic, and it's with every Nightforce optic, is this locking ring. This locking collar always comes undone. I have the NX8 on my, my general purpose rifle Bravo build that I just did a video on. I run the Attacker 1-8, same thing, everything. Now maybe it could be operator error and it's just a bunch of blind people leading the blind, but on this locking collar, it always pops loose. So I usually will just athletic tape wrap it, or duct tape if you're a savage, but that's what I used to have on there.
Everybody I know who has one of these, including myself, tapes it. In some type of fashion, whether it's camo tape, electrical tape, everybody tapes it because it does come loose. I've like wrenched down on it as hard as I could, like thinking I was gonna break the optic, and it still comes loose. So it's just one of those things. Put a piece of tape around it, call it a day.
Set it and forget it. It's definitely something that I do. Now, I am running the Nightforce scope rings from this. I would say, because I run a Vortex rangefinder on top, tons of rail space up here, which is really, really nice. It's very robust and has a lot of screws on it. Kind of confusing at first, but this is actually detachable, so it attaches onto it. I like it, and also the form factor up against the scope looks really good. So the Nightforce rings I think are really solid, but if you're looking at getting a Nightforce, maybe get it as a package deal. How important are rings in your opinion on a scope? Should I go out and buy some frickin' Walmart or Amazon Chinese?
Get quality rings, or a quality mount, because it doesn't matter how good your glass is. If you have crappy rings that are shifting, or the materials are bad, so they're flexing, it's going to translate to your accuracy downrange. So making sure you get a good mount that's going to be solid, is going to be reliable, it's going to be durable, is going to be huge. You're running their Nightforce one, I'm running a Badger mount. Just get something quality. Don't go to Walmart and buy rings out of their sporting goods section. Get something that's well known. And if you don't know what's well known, then just get one of their mounts.
Yeah, just buy it from the same place. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting is I see a lot of people run these really expensive optics and they have a lot of capability, but how often have you seen, especially as a manager of a training facility, that you see really expensive gear and people that are not as capable as the equipment? How important is training?
On a day-to-day basis. On a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
You can buy all the gear, and like good quality gear does help. People say you can't buy skill. You can a little bit, but you have to know what you're doing still. So go out and get training. Go take a 2-day scope carbine course with Barrel and Hatchet. They've been out here multiple times. It's a fantastic course. I've taken it multiple times. But go out there and get training. That way you understand the system a little bit more, and then it also gives you an opportunity to be a place to be able to test it, because a lot of times maybe your home range doesn't have a 600 or 1,000 yard range like we do, but if you come out and travel, take a class from Eric, you'll get the opportunity to shoot out to 600 plus yards. And so yeah, taking a class is huge. I've been shooting for well over 10 years. You're always a student, even if you're an instructor. You're always learning. Technology's always changing. People are finding new things that work better. And the thing that we all thought was the golden standard is no longer the golden standard anymore. So training is super duper duper important. Very, very important.
Yeah,
I can't harp on it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I would say even if you have an optic and you're getting something new, get the training on the optic. Like run the reps, understand, become familiar with it. I mean, and opinions change. You know, like I said, I'm a professional student just like Dion, but opinions change. You know, I was only like, this is only going to run a 2 to 10 optic, and now it's running a 2.5 to 20. So like, there's technology out there that gets better, so don't get stuck in a rut of thinking about this is the one thing I'm going to stick with. Things are constantly evolving. There's new and better ways and easier ways to accomplish tasks, but the NX8 2.5 to 20 has been absolutely fantastic. Disclaimer, I have been dragging my feet on this video because I want to keep this optic and not send it back to Nightforce. So if that's a sign of how much this optic is really capable and I just love it, it's a perfect sign. So before we move on, Dion, you are the manager here at Element Training Complex. I would love for you to talk about the capabilities of this place and what this place has to offer for students, members, instructors, etc.
Yeah, so we are a 205-acre training complex located in Holt, Florida, right between Pensacola and Destin. Surrounded by tons of military bases. We have our Herbert Field AFSOC headquarters. We have Eglin Air Force Base. We have NAS Pensacola, where all the Naval and Marine Corps aviators come to learn how to fly. So we're in a beautiful spot of Florida. But yeah, we have tons of capability out here. Multiple long ranges, a 100, a 300, a 600, 1,000-yard range. We have over 20 dynamic shoot and move bays. We have a non-lethal shoot house. We have 50 acres of sporting clays with over 20 stations, as well as 5 stand. There's not much out here you can't do, as long as you're being safe. You name it, we do it out here. It's a dang good time. Eric comes and visits us at least once a month, it seems like. We absolutely love him. We're still trying to get him to move out here. We might just have to kidnap him and then go get his family and bring him up here. But yeah, tons of capability. There's not much you can't do.
Yeah, and you guys hold matches out here pretty often too, don't you?
Oh yeah, so we do USPSA, we do 22 bench rest, black powder rifle, cowboy action, DMR matches, sporting clay matches. We've had the tactical games out here, and they're coming back again in 2025. We do night competitions out here, utilizing both white light and night vision goggles. If it's a shooting discipline, we have a competition for it out here at some point in time throughout the year. We don't cater to one style of shooting, we cater to shooters in general. So whether it's the guy who just wants to come out and practice his concealed carry pistol, or the guy that wants to come out here and shoot his precision rifle out to 1,000 yards, we have something for absolutely everybody. We don't have an age requirement out here either. So, you know, the best thing for kids is education. So if you want to bring your kids out and you want to educate them on firearm safety, we encourage that. If your child is 16 years under or free, they shoot for free. And as long as they're on a waiver, they're good to go. And so we're huge about making sure that people are practicing their rights. We're huge on the education of firearm safety, both for adults and for children and just the general public at all, and we're here to have a good, safe time.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. Like the variety of shooters. Usually with a facility, you'll see like it caters to one shooter or the other shooters, or just a small group or type of shooters, and this caters to everybody. And the staff are super helpful. The other thing is also there's hotels, so if you travel and you come here, you know, there's places to stay that are really, really close to the facility. The other thing is also if you're in the public, you can get out to what, 300 yards if you're from the public, so you're not even a member and you just want to show up and shoot. That's almost unheard of. Like usually you have to be a member at most facilities to be able to get out to that distance. So the fact that you can go out to 300 meters or yards as a public shooter, like that's on another level. And so it's really, really awesome. An amazing gun culture up here in Holt, Florida. And if you get a chance, go check out Element Training Complex. Say hey to Dion and Steve in the back. Steve looks like Moses, and he's got the 10 Commandments behind his back seat. So anyways, hopefully you got something out of that video, and I'm gonna hand it back to Eric, and we're gonna give you guys an encouraging word. Hey guys, hopefully you got something out of that video. Special thanks to Dion and the staff at Element Training Complex. Super hospitable to me and my students, and to all the competitors that were in the Barrel and Hatchet 5.56 gas gun match. Just incredible community that they have up there in Holt, Florida. And honestly, it's my second home. And so special thanks to them. But one of the things that I was thinking about in the last video for this year is kind of a time of reflecting, especially for me. And I think it's one of those things for all of us to reflect on the year that we've had, the good, the bad, the crazy, and then looking forward to what next year will bring, all the hopes and the aspirations, and also some of the uncertainties and the fears that come with that. And that's a lot for all of us to deal with. One of the things that I think back on this past year, and just how many crazy life-changing things happened, good and bad, and some things that are so stressful that I would wake up in the middle of the night with chest pain, and I told my wife, I was like, I think I'm dying of a heart attack, and it was just purely from stress, and just the different trials that we've had to go through, that I'm sure that all of us have been through some crazy things and some crazy trials that we can now look back at the end of this year and be like, wow, it's crazy that God helped me get through that, and also reflecting on the lessons that God gives us through those trials. And what it really did is, it kind of opened up a passage that I was remembering in the book of James as I was reflecting on this year and kind of looking forward to what is coming next year and what God has in store for me and for Barrel and Hatchet and for all of us. What does God have in store for us? And so I want to read from James chapter 1. It just is something I felt on my heart that I wanted to share with all of you guys. So starting in verse 2. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Let the lowly brother boast in his exaltation, and the rich in his humiliation, because like a flower of the grass he will pass away. For the sun rises with its scorching heat and withers the grass. Its flower falls and its beauty perishes. So also will the rich man fade away in the midst of his pursuits. But blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life which God has promised to those who love him. And that reflects so much onto what I've been going through, and kind of just speaks onto the things that I've been through, and that all of us, in honesty, have all been through this past year. You know, just from on a global scale, as a human race, our country, we have gone through some crazy times, let alone our own personal lives. The trials that we've gone through, the hardships, the rough chapters, the good things. You know, we look back and see all those things, and James is saying, welcome those trials. Welcome them with happiness, because you know that your faith will be tested, and once you get through those trials, you're going to be stronger than ever. And so, like it says here in verse 12, blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. And you know, like James talks about, you know, how riches and seeking fame and seeking pleasures of this world, it will be like a flower. You know, it'll be amazing, but it'll fade away. And so what should I be looking to achieve? What should I be looking to strive for in this next year? I think for me, the one thing that I was looking at in my own life was I want to be ready for the trials. And that way, when the trials get harder, it becomes easier to go through them because I rely on the Lord to help me get through them. I want it to be my first reflex. You know, used to be where I would pray when it was like my last resort, and I'm like, okay, I did all the things that I possibly could to try to get through this, and I'm gonna pray to ask God to put a cherry on top and kind of give me a good luck charm as I try to go through this on my own. And God says, no, have faith in me. Let me take care of the trials for you. And so for this upcoming year, I want to be able to rely on God even more and give up more of my life to him and say, Lord, it's yours. This trial, this hardship, whatever happens, it's in your will. Lord, you take control of it. You are in control of all things. And having my faith in the Lord and through his goodwill and his strength is going to help me get through those trials. My family, you know, with Barrel and Hatchet, with all kinds of ventures that I'll be going through, that all of us are going to go through. I think it's so important for us in this upcoming year to look at ways that we can rely on the Lord and give him the hardships and immediately go to him as the first response and not as the last resort. And for all of us who have gone through something hard in this past year, understand that with life, things come in waves. You know, you get some waves where you're up and some waves where you're down. But it's times when we're in those down portions of the wave that we need to turn to the Lord, and even on the good stuff, to not get lackadaisical, but to continue to rely on him versus things and fame and riches, which the world is always going to try to push on you. But remember to take care of the things that are important in life. You know, looking after your family, that's your very first ministry. Your family, whether that's your parents, whether that's your siblings, your wife, your kids, that is your first ministry. They are your first priority in life. To be able to look after them, to give them up to the Lord and say, Lord, you help me take care of them. Love my family through me. And then look at your coworkers and your friends and think about ways that you can bless them and that ways that you can minister to them through kindness, through sharing the good news of the gospel to them. And for those who don't know who God is, God has some big things in store for you. He's been yearning to be able to have a relationship with you, and maybe this upcoming year is going to be the year where you say, my life was completely changed. 2025 was my year that my life was completely changed. I was at the end of my rope in this past year, but this next year is the year that is the one where God finally brings you home. And I want to say thank you so much to everybody who has supported this channel this past year, the incredible amount of growth that God has done for this channel, and it's his channel, it's not mine. It doesn't belong to me, it belongs to him. I'm just a steward. I'm a nobody. But all glory belongs to him. And if he is able to speak to you through these videos or speak to you through this channel, then that's amazing. And I get to experience some of that as a witness and just say, wow, God, you are awesome. All of this glory belongs to you. And so I want to thank every single one of you guys who has been supportive of the channel, supportive of the work that we do here at Barrel and Hatchet, has come and trained with us. And I look forward to seeing you all next year with a new year full of hopes and dreams and new challenges and newfound faith in the Lord and how He's going to get us through the hard times that will be coming. It will happen. But together as a community and under Christ, as children of the Lord, we will get through it. And so I am so honored to be here, to be a part of this community, to have experienced this past year with all of you. And I look forward to seeing every single one of you next year. And I am honored to be a host of this channel and to be a part of this community and to be called your friend. And so it is my honor to call you all brothers and sisters in Christ. Thank you so much for being here. Trained to be the eternal asset. My name is Eric, and I will see you on the next one.